really excited to get involved. Our webinar today is going to be around ArbiterGame Payments. So let's kind of get going. Let's begin here. To start out, we're going to have you guys log into our ArbiterGame section. This is what you should see when you're looking to make payments. Some of you should have ArbiterGame. If you have anything different, please let me know and I can kind of show you a different way for payments, but let's look at this real quick. Our payments tab is right here. We can click on that tab and that'll take us to our payments tab. This payments tab will then provide us a lot of good information, but it also provides us a place where we can actually make payments. The first thing you want to do on your payments tab is to go right ahead and link your Arbiter Pay account to your ArbiterGame. To do this, you're going to click on this button over here. Mine says change account because I have one in there, but this would say add. We could get in there, go right ahead, and we would have a section for our Arbiter Pay username. Now that's generally an email address. It can be a little bit different, so you will need to go to your Arbiter Pay account to make sure you know what your username is. So if I'd like to go ahead and do that, my username is there. Click. Here we go. Let's see if I get this switched real quick. So there we are. It would go right ahead and it would display basically the account number here. And I would need to type in my 4-digit security code that I've created with Arbiter Pay. That's the payment, that's the 4-digit code that you would use when you first sign in. You'll go right ahead and click save, and that'll go right ahead and continue that. Now there is a section also down here where it says receiving accounts. Your Arbiter Pay account can send as well as receive accounts. So for example, you may have two, you may have one. If we want to create participation fees or breach fees through ArbiterGame, if your opponent actually has ArbiterGame as well, they can pay you directly into your bank for you, and I'll show you how to do that. So that's this section up here, linking your Arbiter Pay account, both receiving as well as sending out that money. Now on the payments tab, you'll also see here a place where you can search by a specific name. So if you have an official calling in, wanting to know information, you can also sort by from and to a specific sport. If we want to pay just officials, schools, or workers, we can also look at things that are paid and unpaid and all. And we'll come back to that really quick. You can then sort. Usually it's scheduled to sort by date for you, so you can look at the oldest to the most recent down at the bottom. And this allows you to view how many on a page. So if we scroll down here, a couple of things you'll notice here is you're going to notice that there's little things over here to the right hand side saying that there's no Arbiter Pay account. Now if there's not an Arbiter Pay account, this is where we would need to reach out to the official, or we need to reach out to the school or the event worker to make sure that they get set up on Arbiter Pay. So it makes it very easy for you to go ahead and pay the individuals. You'll notice when you have somebody that does have an Arbiter Pay account, they're going to have the ability to put the little check here. If you need to reach out to the official, you can always click here, and that would allow you to go ahead and actually get their email address. So you could go ahead and reach out to them and let them know. Same thing with your event workers. They should have an email address and advise them that they need to create their Arbiter Pay account, or sometimes just linking that. So if I wanted to pay an official, they do need to have an Arbiter Pay account. All I have to do is put a checkbox here. That's going to start putting the funds up here saying this is how much we need to make a payment to. We click on Make Payments. It's going to ask us for that 4-digit security key again, and then also our TIN number, so we can go ahead and make sure we're set for taxes there. Whether we're doing our own taxes or whether Arbiter is going to be doing them for you, it's great to put your TIN in because that's going to help reporting. Once we're done making that payment, we click on Make Payment, and that official has been paid. And so that's getting that set up for you. Now, let's say, for example, for some reason, that my concession worker, which is me, at my baseball boys varsity, we're paying them $100. Let's say for some reason that we went ahead and actually paid them. So we no longer want to actually pay them through Arbiter Sports. What I can do is I can put a checkbox next to their name, and up at the top here you'll see a little button now that appears it's called remove. Once I click on that remove button, it's going to ask me, are you sure you'd like to remove it? We go ahead and confirm that, and that individual has been removed. Now we talked about up here, what we can do is if there's a situation where somehow maybe somebody got removed. So for example, back on that 15th one, let's go to page 2. And we can see that $100 here. Let's say for some reason we accidentally clicked that, or we need to go ahead and restore that. You'll see if I go ahead and change this to all, I can go down to this section that says restore. Gonna hit OK. And I go back into just unpaid and go. And you'll see that this worker has been restored. So there is a way for you to remove them if maybe you paid them in a different way. Now, we are working on a situation where, for example, here, this high school is requiring a $100 participation fee, but they don't have an Arbiter Pay account set up. Let's say that you went ahead and you paid that $100. They don't have an Arbiter Pay account. There's not a way, unfortunately, to remove that as of now. We're working on an update to get that done. But only people that have Arbiter Pay accounts are we able to remove and maybe pay in a little bit different way. Now, there are some things that pop up that we want to kind of address. So sometimes we get calls in from schools saying a couple things. First of all, maybe they'll say that they can't see the official. We also might see that there's not an amount there. So usually what that is if we go to schedule, let's look at two different things. We're going to first start here on the 26th. If I click on my officials here, I can see that we have officials. We have our test official, and then we have 3 officials down here. One paying for $75 and the other at $0. Now, when we went back to our payment screen and we looked back on, let's just go on the 26th here. Make it a little bit easier and go. We only see that test official. Why can't I see the other officials? Well, let me show you one thing, and you can kind of see this. Now, this is something kind of from the assigner side of point of view, so don't get confused, but this helps understand or makes a situation. Here's the game on the assigner side. The reason why you're not seeing them is underneath here, we see this test official is set to paid by bill to. That means that this assigner has told the system that the school is going to be paying it. As we see, the other ones are not scheduled that way, not paid. So this means that the assigner is telling him that the assigner itself is going to pay them, not the school. So in order to fix that, let's go ahead and do that really quick. We're going to get that updated so that they all read pay by bill to. Go back to our game here. And now you'll see that they're all scheduled pay by bill to, which is great. Now, if we were to go back to schedule, we'll still see those same officials. So really, you don't see anything on your side. But when we do go into payments now, we should see now here on the 26th. Let's update it and go. We're going to see those officials in there. But you also once again, we see the officials, but then there's a $0 amount. This is because the assigner hasn't put a dollar amount on their side. As you see, there's no dollar amount. Once again, as you see, it's fairly simple. Once there's a change, it's automatically updated over. So let me go ahead and we're going to put a dollar amount in those two here. Putting a dollar amount. Here we go. Save. So now you can see that there's a dollar amount in those. Now if I were to go back here Click on schedule to kind of refresh it. Back in here, change it till the 26th, and go. And you're going to see now those dollar amounts in there. So like I said, we do sometimes get people or schools calling in wondering why, A, they can't see the official, or two, why there's not a dollar amount there. All of that reverts back to your assigner. Your assigner needs to make sure that that's updated on their end so that it'll automatically come over on your end. So nothing really you can do. Another thing that people use, especially with ArbiterGame for payments, is creating what we call invoices. In a situation where you're going to create an invoice, so let's go to a different game. Here's our cross country. What you can do is you can actually, if you are assigning officials, so for example, we've assigned David and John to be our officials there. The official does need to accept this. Then we'll actually see a little button down here that says print voucher. If I were to go ahead and click on print voucher, it's going to pull up a voucher. This voucher shows that the official was David. Here's the dollar amount. If John would have accepted it, he would be here as well. You'll actually see a couple signatures, specifically a signature from the officials itself and from the athletic director. This will allow you to basically say that the official was there, and you could go ahead and actually pay them in a different way. If they didn't have, for example, a way to pay them through Arbiter Pay. So once again, this is usually if you've assigned them there in the school. Once they've accepted that, they can go ahead and click on print voucher, and that'll allow them to actually get that information. As you see, something similar here. You can have an assigner do it as well. Once again, they do have to have accepted it, and then the print voucher section would be here. So you can kind of do this as something where you're actually paying, or if you want to set it up to actually make sure that the officials show up, you would have this for your athletic director to have them sign, and then he could sign and turn it back to you if you wanted additional information. So that's kind of a quick way that you can actually set up to print vouchers. Now, let's look, make sure everything looks good there. Good. So the last thing really when it comes down to payments that people use, well, the last two things. Let's talk about two things. The first thing that sometimes we work with as far as this goes is setting up a time when we can actually make payments for our participation fees. So let me switch over to Alta High School, our test Alta High School. Once we're over here, you're going to see that this game required a participation fee of $20. Okay. If I wanted to go ahead and make a payment to that, I could go ahead and do that. What I would do is let's go to the 26th like we've done before. Click on go. Here we are. Now you see that the Test Duchesne High School doesn't have a receiving Arbiter Pay account. This is why it's important that we go ahead and make sure that we add underneath this receiving this there. This would allow us to go ahead and actually put a checkbox here. This is our participation fee symbol, and we could go ahead and pay the school there. So it makes it really simple for that to happen. The last thing that I wanted to show you guys is underneath what we call our simple pay. Simple pay is a way that you can actually set it up that maybe we don't have a game set up, but we need to make a payment maybe to a concession worker or something like that. What we can do is we can click on the simple pay button here. We can click on the plus sign here. We can go ahead and start filling this out. Are we going to be paying a person? Okay. How much are we going to be paying them? Today, $20. We would then go ahead and start searching for our payee. So let's go ahead and start doing that. And the system should automatically start to figure out who would like to pay. If we'd like to put any type of notes, if we'd like to attach it to a specific sport. As you can see, your payee account is here with your balance that should be, and your 4-digit code. We'll go ahead and click on that, and we can click pay now, and the system will go ahead and actually pay that individual. So it is a way that if for some reason maybe a different official showed up, and they're not on the game. Maybe there's a concession worker we need to pay, something like that you'd like to have in your books, but maybe for some reason don't have a line item here, or you can't find them. A simple pay is a way to do that. We'd like you to make sure that you try to attach it to a game just for really documentation reasons, stuff like that. It makes more sense for you to kind of go back and say, okay, this is attached to that. Simple pay does not specifically attach it to a game. It can attach it to a sport, and you could put a note there. So some good and quick ways that you can go ahead and get that information in there for you. So we've talked a little bit about paying opponents. We've talked about kind of the two common things when it comes down to calls in for us, which is not seeing the officials or there's not an amount. So that kind of ends our webinar underneath ArbiterGame Payments. So I'm going to turn the time over to you guys. If you guys have any questions or concerns, please use that question box over to the right-hand side, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you. I appreciate you guys taking your time here today. Encourage you guys to use our arbitersports.force.com/schools. Once again, underneath getting started and this webinar section, we can see upcoming webinars, and those will be loaded in there very shortly.